Hi, I'm Danny, and I'm the owner of Adirondack Flagpoles. And today we're going to do a group of short video clips to show our clients the full procedure for installing an Adirondack handcrafted wooden flagpole. And when we're done with this, you'll have all the information that the pros use, and you'll be able to put your flagpole up like an expert. So here we are, we're in upstate New York, about 60 miles from our shop. We're installing a 25-foot Northern Red Oak Marine White Interlux yacht paint. Over here is where we're going to be putting the pole in. Clients already installed the base, which you did an excellent job on following our instructions. And I'm going to go over briefly the tools you need, and if you watch this well in advance of your flagpole arrival, you'll have time to get everything. So probably the hardest thing for you to come by at your local hardware store would be some type of a tapered drift or punch. This is 5/8 with the taper. Almost anything will work, and technically you can put your mounting pin in without it, but this makes the alignment a lot easier. The bolts on all the hardware we use are stainless steel, and they're 15/16 socket. So we have a ratchet and a gear wrench. You could get by with 2 box wrenches. You could get by with 2 1-inch crescent wrenches if necessary. You also need a 3/4 inch wrench. This one is a gear wrench. Makes it a little easier, but just a standard 3/4 inch combination wrench. You're going to need some type of a knife or box cutter to cut through all the wrapping on the poles, so they're extremely well wrapped. You're going to need some silicone. We like to lube up the pole and the mounting base to make sure there isn't any friction rubbing on the finish. We like to use a little bit of regular hardware store one-side stick foam as a little gasket between the vertical mounting plate, which we'll show you a little later on. So this isn't real critical, but it's a nice touch, and you're looking at just a few dollars. So that's it for the tools. We've got our sawhorses laid out. The far one is 2/3 of the way from the base in the direction the pole is going. The close one is right even with the center of the base and off to one side. And the way the bases are fabricated, the fixed vertical plate always faces the tip. So when we look at the front of the base, you don't see any bolts on it. That means the tip is coming this way. So we're going to cut here and get the pole unloaded, and then pick up in a few minutes for the unwrapping information on how to get your pole all ready to install. Alright, we're ready to unwrap the pole. A couple things. About 2 feet of the pole for a 24, 28, and maybe a little more for a 30 or 36 should be beyond the base. We're going to fine-tune that later on. It's not critical at this point. We use bases with special pads on them. If you're using just a conventional sawhorse or even lawn chairs or little tables, a beach towel is just fine. Just something that the pole isn't resting on a hard surface when the finish is exposed. Again, from this end, it might be clear. We have carefully positioned, come around, Tim, and shoot me from the back. We've carefully positioned the center sawhorse to be parallel with the center of the base. And we're going to fine-tune that at the last minute before pinning the pole. Now, I mentioned the base has a removable plate that bolts in with stainless bolts, and there's stainless threads right in, welded into the metal, and this plate is welded and fixed. The principle is the heel of the pole comes in where the vertical plate has been removed. When the pole will be pushing from this direction, when we're at top dead center, the pole will stop and gently rest. At that point, we'll affix the removable plate, and the pole raising will be completed. Orientation of the flagpole. If you know your prevailing winds, the cleat, which you'll be able to tell even before you unwrap it where the cleat is, this case, this is my left. My left is west. This is east. We have prevailing winds out of the west. So we're going to put the cleat facing down. So when the pole is raised, the cleat will be here. Also aesthetically, it'll be facing the house. If you have varying winds or you're so sheltered you have no prevailing winds, then just make sure the cleat is oriented before you raise the pole to be visible from whichever side you prefer to see it when you enter your home or looking out your windows, etc. So we're going to take a good sharp knife and carefully cut through several layers, just barely cutting through this shrink wrap into the foam underneath. Do not use a long blade and don't go any deeper than you have to. Sort of like just opening up a little onion skin. And we'll cut the video now and finish unwrapping the pole and then move on to the next step. Okay, we're ready to place the pole in the base, which we call the pinning process. A couple things. We've unwrapped all the bubble wrap, but we've left the sill seal on everything except the bottom 2 feet. The reason is we're still manipulating the flagpole. We'd like it to have a little protection. We've also exposed the tip of the flagpole, which includes the truck, which is the pulley, and the finial. And the reason is to make sure that in transit, nothing loosened up and everything's still nice and straight. So we like to take a good look at this on the ground in case something could use an 1/8 of a turn tightening or a little tiny twist. We want to make sure this is all snug, and it is, but transportation will affect the security of these screws. We're pretty well lined up on this sawhorse. We're going to remove the 5/8 mounting pin. Now be careful with this. The ends have never seize, which is a silver lubricant, and we're actually going to put a little more on this one. And you don't want to get this on your hands right now because it'll never come off and you'll get some on the pole. So we use it very sparingly, but even though it's stainless steel, the never seize is still really important to keep the steel from galling and locking together. Now we're also going to check that we got a nice clean fitment. We ream these bases after they're powder coated, but you want to make sure it's not binding. As well, you want to make sure that the bushing in the flagpole, this is not bare wood, this is a pressed in bushing to match the bushings in the base. You want to make sure the flagpole is very free. You want to have your plate and your bolts ready. Anything that has never seize, keep it off the grass because it will collect debris. So we're going to put it on this nice clean bare concrete. Next step is our silicone. We're going to spray the inside of the base, and we're going to spray the flagpole, but not the very bottom. We're going to leave a few inches dry and only spray the 2 sides where the bushing is. And I keep referring to a bushing. This is not a bare hole drilled in the pole. Our smaller poles, there's a nylon bushing pressed in epoxy. Our larger, taller poles, it's a stainless steel bushing. This keeps the pin from wearing in the flagpole and causing the wood to erode away. And the tubing in the base is not hollow. It has a steel bushing pressed in and welded so that there's more strength, and this is what we call line boring. That pin is being supported in 3 places. All right, Jeff, our owner of this new pole, is going to go to work with us a little. So the procedure now is we are trying to make sure the pole is perfectly square with the base. So the first thing Jeff's going to do on that little dry portion I left him is lift the pole and bring it directly over the base. And now we've got about this much to move, so we're going to move down the horse just about a foot. Just lift lightly. I'll tell you when. Stop. Now we're roughly centered. And now Jeff, come down a little lower, but don't quite touch the middle. Now we've got a man on the sawhorse doing an adjustment. We're going to go towards the road about 1 inch. Keep going, another couple inches, little more, And how's the camera picking that up?
It's seeing it.
All right, so we're very close to parallel. We've lost our pin, it's rubbed forward. So I want you to just gently let the pole come back about an inch to me. Back towards you, Jeff. Bring it right back to you. Stop. Bring it right down to my fingers. Let's get this last wrap off. Okay, go. Drop it right down to my fingers. Come forward just a hair, a quarter inch towards the sawhorse. Beautiful. Drop down till you're resting on my knuckle. Now I'm looking through the bore for the pole. I got it. Come up a hair, Jeff. Bring it back to you, 1/8 of an inch. Just a touch. A little more. A little more. And now the tapered drift slides right in easily. If you were trying to put the pin in right now, it's beveled, it'll go, but you're good, Jeff, you can relax yourself. The tapered punch makes this portion very easy. Last chance we're gonna get to make sure the cleat's oriented where we wanted it. So when the pole's vertical, the cleat's on this side, the wind's from this direction, everything's good. If you'd center that horse back up now, so we got a nice support there. And even after you're pinned, you can make a little adjustment. So towards the road, about 2 inches. Now we're just perfectly parallel with the base. Because we're only supported on one side, the pole is actually leaning. Jeff is going to rotate the pole towards the drifts so that I can start to pin, and you'll stay on the horse if I still need a little adjustment. Okay, I'd like the pole to go to the house about an inch. A little more, a little more, a little more, a little more, a little more. Good. Hold right there, Jeff. Now we're going to catch this pin so that when this one drives it out, it doesn't mar the powder coating. Too much, Jeff. Let it rock. Let me take a look on this side. Up a little, Jeff. A hair back to the road, maybe an inch on your end. Hold. All right, we're now pinned. Everything's good. You can let go. At this point, we're now going to unwrap the rest of the pole. So we'll cut this segment of the video off while we get back to work. Here's the pole. Everything's been checked and tested. I want to see if the camera can get in here and show this alignment I was referring to. We have these vertical uprights are not parallel. They are deliberately welded to bow out a little to add more clearance. Later, the big 5/8 by 11 stainless pin will squeeze them together till they're perfectly parallel. Right now, we've got an 1/8 of an inch on either side, and I want you to see how key that adjustment on the second horse was to keeping that parallel. If that wasn't even on both sides, we risk scraping the finish on the pole. We're going to give it one last little touch of silicone, which I've hidden well. We've got our bolts and our plate and our wrench ready so that once the pole is vertical, we can immediately secure it. We have our big 5/8 by 11 stainless lock nuts on, but very loose. You'll see there's 2 or 3 threads. We've just barely put those on a snug finger tight so that we have clearance on the base. And the last thing you'll note, I mentioned this when I was going over the tools, is we put 2 little strips of foam so that it has a little compression against the pole to form a little bit of a gasket. We're ready to go. We're all going to come over on the same side of the pole. The key to raising a pole of any size, if you have the right number of men, is that you have to stay, men or women, the women makes this part easier, you have to stay very close together. If you try to leave a little gap, very soon after the pole gains elevation, the last man won't even be able to reach it. You literally have to be reaching forward and your chest pressed against the back of the person ahead of you. We line up by height, the tallest guys to the back, and we're ready to go. We're using 3 men for a 24 foot, which is overkill, but we're going to start about 2/3 of the way up. Don't have anybody behind the horse. Make sure everybody's in front of it. We're going to close right up tight like we really like each other. We're going to lift the pole up on our shoulder. All right. Now just start lifting forward a bit. And now I'm going to give it a good push and let it come in easy. Don't force it or slam it. Somebody on it? Okay. You got it good? Okay. And now I'm going to set my bolts. But once it's vertical, it's not hard to hold. All we need to secure this pole right now is finger tight. And it absolutely can't go anywhere with this mounting system. And then later on, we'll snug them up. Remember, these have never sees on them. Don't get your fingers on them. Don't drop them. Now, at this point, when you're finger tight, the man that's holding the pole can release it. We're going to snug these up. We're using our gear wrench. Your box wrench will do exactly the same thing. Probably not the best place for a crescent wrench to make more of the powder coating. So if you don't have a 3/4 inch combination wrench, or a 19 millimeter, which is exactly the same, I definitely recommend the $6–7 at the hardware store for that. Okay, so our pole's up. Next step, we're going to lock our pin in. And well, it's not too critical. Remember, 15/16 or 2 1-inch crescent wrenches. So it's not too critical. As far as aesthetics, I like to show the same number of threads. So I watch and see which one of my nylock stainless nuts is turning. And you see we're getting all our thread on this end. So we're going to back it out a little. And there's 2 tricks to force the pin to move rather than the nut. One trick is if you're using a ratchet, become an air wrench. Just snap it. Snap it very hard. And in this case, that's not working. So what we have here is a 5/8 by 11 bolt, which is the one optional part I hadn't mentioned, 5/8 by 11 nut. And we're double nutting this side. Now the whole purpose of all of this part of what I'm explaining is simply to have an equal number of threads showing on both sides. Now that that's got a jam nut, it's going to act like a bolt. It can't move, so the other nut is gaining all our threads. And what we're looking for here is to just slightly compress the steel against the pole. And I still don't think I got enough as far as our equal threads. So I'm just going to tweak that a little. Still is back this one off a little. And now if I can catch just the 1.5 thread to lock, we should end up with just about the same amount of thread on the other side. We're close and it's starting to spin, so we're going to let it go at about 1 thread exposure here. And that's it. The next thing we're going to do is go over the rigging and the raising of the flag. We'll get our gear picked up and then cut to that last little clip. The pole's up. Looks pretty good. It looks perfect. They all do. At this point, usually when I'm with my clients, they've all been wonderful people, I like to share a little information about the pole. I call it Flagpole 101. So we're going to go top to bottom, and we'd be doing this even if the video wasn't running. At this point, everything's locked down. The pole is perfectly vertical. It's secure. It's not going anywhere. The orientation is correct. The base, T60-61 aircraft aluminum, powder coated with Tiger Drylax Series 38. This is the best in the industry. All the hardware for the base, 304 stainless. As I mentioned, there's bushings through the tubing. It's not hollow tubing. Your base is pretty much lifetime structurally, and probably the powder's good for 10 to 12 years, depending on your latitude and saltwater exposure, at which point you'll have to drop the pole, which is the reverse of what we just did, literally a 25-minute process, and just sand the base and paint it with a good industrial enamel. You'll get another 10 years out of it. So for most of us at my age, that 20-year span is as long as we'll have to be worrying about the base. Your plaque is solid bronze with silicone bronze screws. It's lifetime. It'll tarnish lightly over the years to a very nice vintage look, but it won't tarnish as fast as brass. It'll stay quite bright for quite some time. If you want a custom plaque, we do custom engraving. You just have to email me, and then we exchange the plaques. You send this one back when you get your custom one. They all use the same screw holes. The cleat is solid brass. This one, because we're on a white pole, has been chromed, which will keep the brass from tarnishing. That was the purpose of chroming brass for marine hardware. The rope is not called a rope when it's on a flagpole. It's a halyard. It's 5/16 braided nylon. You can get at any marina. The formula is twice the height of the pole minus 4. So this would be 50 minus 4. You need 46 feet of halyard. The halyards are good for 5, 6, maybe 7 years. I like to see them replaced about every 3 years, and a good indicator is when they start turning a little gray and look like a clothesline. That's the time to replace it. The reason is, if you replace a halyard before it breaks and fails, you use the old one to pull the new one through. You just butt them together and tape them up nice and tight, pull gently, and as you're removing the old one, the new one is being pulled through the pulley. If you wait for your halyard to actually break, then you're going to be lowering the pole. Everything that has rigging, if we can get the camera to look up high now, so you see the spinner now, pulley, and that's where the snaps and the flag are going. So the outboard side of the halyard has everything, the inboard side remains clean. We're going to bring the square knot down right to eye level. This being a 24-foot flagpole, the rule of thumb is the hem or vertical height of the flag should be 1/6 of the height of the flagpole. So the proper size for a 24 is 4 by 6. The square knot should go right in the center of the flag, which is the bottom of the blue part, referred to as the union. There's a diagram along with your flag etiquette book that'll show you the process. These need to be adjustable, so there are no knots. You go through your snap and over the neck. Now it's still adjustable vertically. We can feed it line in either direction. These are very special snaps. You can get them from me when I retire. I'll make it clear on my website where to order them. These are solid brass with the white rubber coating. The rubber is very important to prevent abrasion to our wood finish, unlike a metal pole that you'll notice always turns black from the abrasion. Every year when you replace your flag, look and see if your rubber has worn. If you're seeing some abrasion of the rubber, replace it before you see any bare metal, and this is where it'll abrade. All right, now that we've got one snap on, we fly only Annan flags, the oldest American flag company, and the finest flags made in the U.S. These are the Nile Glow series with embroidered stars. Their color fast warranty is 1 year. At 1 year, it's time to replace the flag anyway. they're still serviceable, but they're getting a little rough. So I've got Jeff holding the bottom of my flag. You notice I lightly clean it off so I have both hands free. We're going to set the first snap, presuming we're fairly close to the proper height for that snap. I didn't measure, but I've done it 404 times, so I better be close. One thing you want to watch, if the camera's catching this, don't get any fabric caught between your snap. Make sure it's bare metal on bare metal and you can hear it click. And they're a little snug because of the extra rubber, but they will go completely in the grommet. At this point, we're going to double check that our top snap is appropriate, and I'm also going to cleat off again like I did. So I was shooting for the middle, and there's the fold, and there's my knot. Now this isn't critical within half an inch. It's just approximately in the middle of the flag. The second snap, we're going to start a little lower than it looks like we should, because it will automatically pull down vertically. The next item is in my opinion very important, and once you learn this, you'll see how many people don't do this properly. Just driving by, you'll see flags every day that are improperly placed on the halyard. What we want now, these are very strong hems and this is very strong halyard. We want them working together in high winds. Too short a halyard and your hem will have a bow in it. I can exaggerate that to show you what I mean. This hem is doing nothing to take the load off the pole. All the weight of the flag drag is on the halyard. If your halyard were too long, it would be loose. The perfect setup is when you have equal tension, and that's why these slip knots just slide. I'm going to lengthen my halyard about 1.5 inches. So you see I was pretty close to start with. It's not like we got to move a mile or anything. And what we're looking for now, when we pull down hard, is equal tension, and I may have gone a hair too far, so I'm going to give just a little back. Now we have a very snug halyard, very snug hem, and our square knot is right roughly in the middle of the flag. Jeff, I'll let you do the honors to raise it. So and I got the flag. That's it. If it's light winds, just fluff it out a little while you can reach it, get the folds out of it. And let's watch that one go up. All the way, all the way, all the way. Very good. Now, back to Flagpole 101. The most important thing I'm going to tell you about caring for your flagpole is just what Jeff asked me. When he got close to the top, he thought he was there and was ready to stop. At that point, right now I'm about 6 inches. The snap is about 6 inches from the top of the pole. And you can hear it hitting the pole in a light wind when it bangs back and forth. What we want to do to eliminate that top snap from wearing your finish is when you raise your pole, listen for the sound of it going right up into the truck, the little beak on the pulley. Right now, it's at 90 degrees, it can't touch the pole, and you won't have any wear up there from your snap. So never stop even 1 inch or 2. Listen for it, I call it clicking out. The second thing we're going to do is eliminate the bottom snap from causing any wear. The way we do that is we don't start our half hitches from the bottom of the cleat. We use the cleat as a block. And we're going to get all we can for purchase on this and a good grip on the halyard. We're going to get around. And now we're going to take all the tension we can put on this. You can't hurt the halyard, you can't hurt the cleat. You definitely can't hurt the pole. The tighter you get this, now you hear that bottom snap? It can't touch the pole. It's banjo tight, and wind will only help. The flag will pull that snap away from the pole. If we let this loose where your halyard was bowing out, the bottom snap would constantly be damaging your finish. Now once you have this banjo tight halyard, don't give any of it back. On this first half hitch, stay flat, get it as tight as you can, and really tighten it. This way, we didn't give up all that tension that we work to gain. Keep each successive half hitch very flat. On the last one, lock by going under your figure 8, back over your cleat, behind your halyard, and the proper tail is about 6 inches like this. I like to see the halyard somewhere between the plat, and it'll vary. These shrink over time. So that's it, folks. Thank you, sir, for being. Thank God we live in a country